I know you've seen the title, right? And the thumbnail as well. And you're asking yourself, is it real going down on Conversations? Our relationship with Nissan Serena has not been the best. In fact, it is this same car that coined the phrase Nissan ni Nissan too. But today, we are here to put this car under scrutiny and find out, is it as bad as they said it was? What are the good things about the Nissan Serena, especially this newer version, the 5th generation C27? Welcome to another special episode of Mama Mboga na Boda Boda edition. This is where we review mid-priced cars on our midweek review. So on this week we have Her Majesty Nissan Serena, and this review had been made possible by one of you guys. You reached out, we did an inspection, we sourced for this car to just make sure that this purchase is solid and secured. And I know one of the biggest problem right now in terms of buying a car in the Kenyan market space is the idea and the fact that you're buying something that is legit, something that is good, and you have the peace of mind of driving that car whenever you want to go, be it alone or with your family or your friends. And I have good news for you, because at the end of this month, I'm bringing something beautiful and awesome that will help you enjoy the luxury, the convenience of buying and owning a car in Kenya. So let's get into it. The 2016, 2017, 2018 Nissan Serena, because this is the C27, so it's a generation. This is what you get. This is the same face, same aesthetics you get between 2016 all the way to 2021. 2022 we have the next generation, but for this is what you get with a few improvements here and there. So what do you get on the Nissan Serena on the front fascia? It's an aggressive look, an easy aggressive look with your V motion shaped grille with chrome appendages kila mahali. I don't know why the Japanese guys love chrome, but that's what you get. You have your dual light LED HID projector headlamps, nimbili. And I know the big question you guys are asking is, you can see there's an LED strip just above the top headlight branch. And you're thinking, Ibra, hiyo inakaa kama daylight running. No. The engineers at Nissan were more smarter. I don't know whether it's smart or dumb, but they decided that this is where your daylight running lights are going to be. So this is your fog light stroke, your daylight running. Come on, Nissan. You can do better, making this car look dumb. Away from that, a very nice subtle grille. It looks a bit sporty and nice. We have a carbon finish hapa yenye najua ni fake, but it just adds on to the vibe of this car. You have your Nissan logo as well. You have extra lights just in between the grille, just to add on to the assertiveness and styling of the Nissan Serena. Away from that, nothing much. I think we can clearly say the step wagon, the Noah, slightly in one or the other, looks better than this version of the Nissan Serena. But the next version, hizo gari zote zioni, it looks very nice at the front. Let's move to the side profile of this car and see what do you get when you buy the Nissan Serena. Did I tell you, just as a matter of fact, that this particular car, the C27, is the best selling MPV in Japan? This particular one, the S Hybrid. And the reasons are what I'm going to explain to you. There are a few easy cues, design cues that I love, like the blacked out side mirror with an LED strip, and then the black flows all the way to the rear. And you can see the D pillar has no color, like it's like there's no pillar here. Iko ndani, so it gives it a floating feel, which makes this car look quite nice on the side. You have your side skirt that gives this car a bit of a sporty vibe on the side. And again, it's an MPV, so what are you expecting? You have your S Hybrid badge. I'll talk to you about the S Hybrid technology when we check out what is under the hood. So this being the Highway Star, what you get is size 15, alloys at the front, and the rear as well. And when it comes to brakes, you have disc both at the front and the rear. And something awesome and something beautiful about this particular model of the car is that it comes to the suspension. So what you get is a conventional McPherson strut at the front, and then at the rear, if you buy this car in a two-wheel configuration, this particular one is not. These are four-wheel drive configuration. A two-wheel configuration will have a torsion beam running across your entire rear subframe, you know, to give you your handling feel. But this particular one has independent suspension with the rear diff to give you the perfect four-wheel drive capability, or you can call it all-wheel drive capability if that matters to you. And because I want to show you nicer things that any other MPV doesn't have, one of them is this. Voila! Welcome to the Nissan Serena. So, I remember I told you that there is a reason why this particular car is the best selling MPV in Japan. This particular car, not the Noah, not your step wagon, not your Mazda Biante. Regardless of all the things you've heard about this car, still this car is the best selling. I will come back to the convenient features that you get inside this car. Let's come back to the rear of this car. So what do you get when you flow the way to the rear of this car? The styling still goes on. Whatever you get at the front, it's not a pretty looking car, but again you have your black separation from the main body, which just makes it nice. At the center you have a very huge chrome appendage just hanging there to remind you that these two things are different, the top and the rear. But something special that again you will not find on any other MPV for that matter is this. Where do you get that? So your tailgate splits into two, so you can do this, you know, every time you are parking a car and then there's a guy who comes and parks next to you and maybe you want to load. Now this keeps on hitting the next car that is next to you. For convenience purposes, Nissan has made it possible to have that. You just bring your luggage pole and put it in, and those are the few things that make this car one of the most sought after MPV in Japan and not any other car. So away from that, let's talk about practicality. When it comes to practicality, let me just get this thing away. You have practical space. I think you can fit huge suitcases here for the whole family. But as if that is not enough, you also have another space down here, and the owner has made himself comfortable. You can see some shoes there. Ili gari anapeleka mahali ana park, take your shoes, put them on, your sports shoes, do your runs, drink some water and go back home. Now, Nissan has also made it possible to hide your headrest just on the side. Na hii headrest inaingia hapo ya ule mtu wa tatu, the third guy who sits in the middle, watu wa lift. But in case you're not using it, you can just plug it off and then you can return it back to its location perfectly. And in case you need more practicality, Nissan have made it possible to, you know, fold out your third row seats. And the easy way you do that is you pull this strap inaenda chini. Very easy and convenient, by the way. Pull that one, it goes up, and then you have this thing here which you clip it there and then adjust your tightness. Kazi rahisi. And voila. Let me see, does this one fall down? Yes, it does. Perfect. Let me do the second. I think we need to confirm exactly how practical this car is. So, pull that one down. Perfect. You remember that. Pull that one up. Perfect. Take that one and strap it in there. Perfecto. And fold that. Now look at that. But one thing I want to give it to the Honda Step Wagon is it has a lower floor. So when you are inside the Honda Step Wagon, I think it will be this space. You remember when I did the review of the Honda Freed, I felt it was a bit taller. But again, this makes the work done. So these are some of the few convenient features that make this car one of the most sought after MPV in Japan. So let's check out the front of this car. Under the hood, talk about the engine, talk about the transmission, and separate facts from rumors and see, does it make sense to actually buy and own this car in Kenya? On this particular generation of the Nissan Serena, Nissan made it quite simple and easy to choose. So they only narrowed down to 2 engine options. So you can either get this car in this configuration, which comes with the MR20DD. And basically, MR20DD, it's a 2000cc. MR is the family of engines. 20 is 2000cc. And then D, the first D is for dual overcams. The second D is for direct injection. Easy and straightforward. If you're not doing that, then you can get this car with a HR12, which is the same engine utaipata kwa Nissan Note e-Power. But that Nissan Note e-Power is what we call the e-Power technology. So there is an engine that does nothing. So you have an electric motor, which is the EM57, that does all the propelling of that car. But next to it, you have a generator, which is the HR12 engine. So if you're choosing to buy this car, you can either choose this. And this one here is interesting because it's what we call a mild hybrid, or what you call a micro. Let me not call it a mild. Let me call it a micro hybrid. So there is a full hybrid, there's a mild hybrid, and then there's a micro hybrid. So what you have here is a motor. And Nissan calls this motor, you know, the Nissan Note e-Power motor is the EM57, which is big and huge, that runs the entire car. But the small motor you have here that works like a small generator to power your headlights, your accessories, your infotainment system, help with the start-stop technology, is what Nissan call the SM24. So it's, ukiangalia hapa, it looks more like an alternator, but actually it's a small generator motor. And Nissan claims when you coming out of traffic stops, it adds on a bit of power, and they claim it gives you a punch of 50 Newton meters of torque. But it only does that for 1 second. So you cannot get anything past that. Ukienda sekunda ya pili, imesha shut down, because the work it actually does is to harness energy from regenerative braking and just make sure that you power on all your accessories. Now let's talk about what is paired to this particular engine, and that is where the controversy starts. So what you get here is what we call the Xtronic CVT, and this has been a subject of controversy over and over and over and over again. But let's put this to perspective. How bad or how good is the Xtronic CVT on these newer models of the Nissan? Now, there are few improvements. Most people will talk about this transmission and they'll never tell you the good things about this transmission. So let me start with the good things before we talk about the small negative that has a solution to it. So the good things is Nissan claims that on this particular transmission, on this newer version of the Nissan Serena, they have done a bit of improvement. The improvements have gone into making sure that there is a reduction in friction. Remember, one thing that a CVT hates is heat, and friction is the mother of heat generation. So Nissan says they have actually taken down the friction ability that this transmission generates down to 40% from the previous generation of the Xtronic CVT, and that is good to keep your heat down and make sure that your CVT lasts as long as you want it. The second thing they have done is they have actually simulated again gear shifts. I know you guys love the driver experience, so they have a simulation of gear shifts to 7-speed on this particular transmission, and that will give you superb fuel economy and efficiency when you're actually driving this car. Let's talk about the bad things, because that's what you guys are waiting. How bad is the Xtronic CVT? Before I talk about how bad, let me talk about what is the recommended way of use of this car. Now, most of the time, people get problems with the CVT because it's being used in the wrong way. A CVT transmission is not meant to be used as maybe a race car. You don't thrash this car like you'll do when you have an automatic, a manual, or a DSG. It's meant to be driven smoothly, and I don't want to call slowly, but basically smoothly. See, slowly hapo watu wananiua hapa. So that is the essence of how the CVT is supposed to be used. Number two, things that people don't actually do is these transmissions are quite sensitive to service. In the Kenyan market, we have a problem here because where this transmission is sensitive service, sensitivity means, one, you have to make sure that you put in the proper fluid. There is a high probability that the fluid you're buying for this particular car might be fake in the market. And if you put in fake fluids that does not meet the quality threshold of what this particular transmission requires, you get yourself into problems. The frequency of service. These transmissions, again, if you ask me, because we live in the tropics, do not go anything past 50,000 kilometers on this transmission before you flush your fluids and have a newer set of fluids in this particular transmission. The Xtronic CVT has one major problem and one major flaw. So the major problem that this particular transmission suffers from, ile wameimba, people have said, hey, sijui go do what. It's simple. It boils down to the insufficient cooling apparatus that Nissan has actually installed on this car. And remember, that's not Nissan. These are Jatco transmission. This Jatco transmission, this particular transmission is still the same transmission you'll get on your Outlander. So usishtuko ukino Outlander na upate the same problem you'll probably get when you buy this particular car. So the insufficient cooling ways of system that Nissan have made it possible to be on this Xtronic CVT are being solved by installing an aftermarket oil cooler. This particular car, the owner, ni mtu anasikizanga sana mambo ya conversation, ashaiweka ndo hii hapa, and he's done already 3 trips to Mombasa and back, and he tells me he has enjoyed his drive like never before. I think this is one of the best decisions that he has ever made. So it's actually possible to actually buy and live with the Nissan Serena and enjoy it if you can only follow the due procedures. Shida yenu ni mnataka kununua Nissan Xtronic CVT na mnataka kuiendesha kama Toyota Corolla ya 2004. Utaumia. So let's check out the interior of this car. If this car is the best selling car in Japan, of course it needs to have awesome features, and one of them is the one I tried before and it kind of refused, but let me try. Very nice. So you can do that, and not only can you open, but you can also take 2. Come on. There you go. The good things about technology. So now that we are done with that, it means when you're coming with your luggage, you can kick the door, then you step back, and you have to step back. If you don't step back, it won't work. That's how Nissan have designed this. So you put your luggage in, then you step back again, you do that, and then step back. See now? Yeah, the finicky tech. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not only can you open one door electronically, you can actually open even the next one. The marvel of the Nissan Serena. So you have 2 electronic side doors. Now let's get to things that are more interesting. One, you can actually move this seat mbele, right? You can recline it. There's something behind. I lifted the rear seat, so you can actually recline this seat, which is very awesome. But there's a third thing here, and you're wondering, what does this actually do? So now, to understand that, I have to move this way and show you the center. So you have kakiti hapa, the third person, in case you have, I don't know who is this size, but this guy must be, I don't know who is this small. But in case you don't have that person, you can do this. Then this becomes your very nice center console, right? But in case you have a very demanding driver like Mbugua, the way he was carrying me in the Honda Legend, and he's like, nipatie center console, you can also do this. You can lift this one up and send it to Mr. Mbugua, who is the driver at the front. And now you have your cup holder there. I'm going to tell you how many cup holders you can get here in a minute. But now here is where things get interesting. Now I come back to this seat, then I come back to the third lever. So when I pull that up, show me any other car that can do that. Show me. Ni gani? Step wagon. So actually what this makes it quite easy. You can easily access your third row seats. Now Toto or anybody, it's easy to come out and go out. But let me put the back seats down and show you something more interesting, especially for people who will be sitting on the third row of seats. So that's how conveniently the Serena is set up. But that's not where it ends. Number one, you see this seat? So in case this seat is all the way on the back and I want to move out and I still feel I am bigger and I need to move it, there's a lever here. Just step on it and push the seat with my foot. Quite easy and convenient. It gives you an awesome experience. And to add on to the sweetness of the Serena, as the third passenger or the third row passenger, I can actually do this. I can actually open and close the door from the rear. Now let's get to more practical options. Let's talk about cup holders. One, I have two bottle holders here. As if one is not enough, they've given me two. Another one is right on this seat. You can sit here, naweka hapo, and then I have a very nice plate, and the same configuration is replicated for the person sitting next to me. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus a USB charger. So wale tunapenda sherehe, you're seated here, they've given it to you available there. 5 watts. Una charge simu yako, una charge iPhone, wasa iPhone ndo moto inaishanga haraka. So you can charge your iPhone there. So let me come back to the second row of seat and show you more options or features that you get when you buy the Serena, to just remind you that this is one of the best selling car that you can buy right now in the market, and at a very good price. So let's talk about the more options you get when you're seated here, away from one, this. So you have your nice table, and as if the cup holders are not yet done, we have two more here, and the same is for the setup on this end. Again, you can put here your bottle, very nice, or I can actually put here my phone and just the iPhone is always big. Let me try another phone. I can actually watch my movie or my TikToks. Quite nice. You have another cup holder or bottle holder at the center in case you moved the center console that you shared between the passenger and the driver, or the passenger at the front as well. And those are the few nicer things that you get. And that's not the end. So you get two, then you get another one on the door here. You can sit here. It's there. You can also store your bottle there, which is too many places to store your bottle or cups, which is quite interesting. It's like they made this car specifically for practicality and features. Now, you get dual zone climate at the front, but hapa nyuma, you can only control your stuff through here. So you don't get dual zone, but you can control your heat, cold, the speed of the fan, or just set it to auto. You have your vents well articulated around the cabin space. So let's check out the front of this car. Before that, you have your USBs. Kila mtu wako na USB. So this guy has a USB port. You have your USB port as well, and some few places to store your shenanigans, like this. Yeah, there you go. But let's go with these at the front, show you what Nissan has also made possible to have on this particular car. And once you are in here, kwa sababu Nissan hawachezi, they have made it possible to have a place where you can actually charge your laptop. So there you go. I can plug in my very nice white charger. Then I can easily now just plug in. There it is, charging. You can see it there, which is perfect. So it means as the driver is enjoying his ride, I can as well be here watching reviews and conversations. Talking about reviews, have you subscribed yet? I'm being told 55% of you mnakuja mnaona content, you go without subscribing. What did we do to you? Please hit the sub button, put your notifications on, because the Nissan Serena is finally on Conversations. So let's talk about storage, because that is one very important thing when you're planning to buy this sort of car. Storage ni mingi. You have your first bottle holders on the door bin there with very nice hard plastic with the material here that helps you just get your comfort when you're putting your hands on it. Tuko na storage bin number 1. You can store your stuff there. Storage bin number 2, and this one is very huge. You have another compartment there, which is very nice. You have a third one here. Oh, these are also cup holders you can put there. So now let me return this center console at the side, and then we get to sit in the driver's seat and talk about how interesting, how nice is the Nissan Serena. Sitting at the front of the Nissan Serena, one thing I immediately notice is our friend has done a bit of an upgrade on the infotainment system. So there is a stock infotainment system that comes here, but here ameshaweka mambo ya Android. So I think this is a choice you can make, and it adds on to the value or the feel of you owning and driving this car. Let's talk about the extra features. So I told you have dual zone climate control, but before I go to dual zone, let me finish the storage bit. So you remember we had some storage compartment there. The steering is actually telescopic. You can move it in and out and down, and then just right above it you have a place where you can put your phone. It has a USB charger as well, and you can get, he's already adapting to using it from that point, which is quite convenient. Below here you also have another storage compartment. Unaweza weka hapo ka wallet, unaweza weka hapo ka ID. Basically do your nice stuff there. You have heated seats and cooled seats as well, but the only challenge is the location. You see where they are, so you have to actually reach down there for you to activate them, which is quite a bummer. I felt they should be around here, but that's what you get. You have a column mounted gear shifter, which is nice. Your start button is here. And actually what is helping the car to start and stop is the motor I told you about, the one that they've installed, the one that gives this car a bit of hybridness. That's what helps in the starting the car when you're in traffic, when you're starting up right now as we are doing it. So let me just shut her down and talk about a few things I don't like. One, okay, the seats are okay. For this budget and the money that you're spending on this car, the seats are okay. But if you buy the premium, I think you can get it in leather, which is quite cool in comparison to other cars in the same class, like the Step Wagon and the Noah. I think there is not much competition when it comes to how the seats look like. But where I feel Nissan have played us a little bit. So normally we are used to, if you are engaging your camera system, like the one I'm clicking on right now, is you'll have the system being integrated on this infotainment system that is here. So what you actually get here is the Clarion. If you hadn't done a swap of this Android, you get a Clarion infotainment system that is Android enabled and Apple CarPlay enabled as well. But now when you press the camera or you engage this car reverse, kuna ka screen kadogo pale mbele. Nissan have put it for you there, which is kinda not good. It cheapens the value of this car. I wish they had done it here. I think it would have made it a bit more superior and luxury. But what you get here in terms of safety features is what Nissan calls ProPilot. So ProPilot comes with, it's an equivalent of Honda sensing and what you get in the in Subaru, the eyesight. So it's more of lane assist, rear collision mitigation. So you can get all those things here, and you can turn them on and turn them off as well. And to wind up what you get in the Nissan Serena, uko na hapa ka park assist, but this one helps you just park your car. It's not as intuitive and active as the ones you get in Mercedes Benz's or BMW, but at least it will give you an overview of where to go and how to park the car. Let's come back to the steering wheel. You can see the steering wheel. Let me power this car. You can see it has a flat bezel, the sportiness of a sport steering wheel. Let me turn it. Yeah, there you go. With multifunction, so you can ongeza volume yako infotainment system, you can go next. You can also set your cruise control here as well. And something else I love, again, this car comes from Japan, so you are able to get it with the parking sensors both at the front and the rear. But there are models and specs of this car that you utapata hizo vitu, so if you get one that doesn't have, don't be surprised. And as we transition into actually testing this car on the road and just confirm how does it feel or how does it compare to the alternatives and the competition on the market, I'll just give you a cue. Nissan have this thing that they're doing around their cars in terms of making them drive better, handle better on the road and just feel comfortable, and that is something that I'm looking forward to also test and verify. Does the Serena handle as well as the experience we had when we drove and tested the Nissan X-Trail? So let's drive this car and see how does it actually handle, or how does it compare to its competition? Immediately you get into the Nissan Serena, you greeted with space. Like, you're sitting on a high commanding position, everything is clear. I can see like the entire road, Bele, Nyuma. It's just awesome. It's beautiful. It makes driving this car quite easy, especially when you're maneuvering around traffic. For it, I think it makes it quite easy. It's a long and very tall car, so visibility when you're driving this car is one quite very important thing. Right now I'm doing very slow speeds, 46 kilometers per hour, and I can feel the engine is not straining as much. Yeah, okay, easy. And particularly, as I said before, I think this car is supposed to be driven this way. It's not a car. In fact, on this one, we are not even going to do 0 to 100. This is a car that you're hauling your family calmly, easily, and smoothly. It's a car you want to go to destinations. It's a car you wouldn't really want to abuse and push the limits. That is what the CVT is meant to do. It's not a transmission that you unaanza kupigana nayo like any other car. But generally, the drive quality is quite nice. Let me just put up the windows. Even the soundproofing, I feel the soundproofing is perfectly nice. I don't feel a lot of noises coming from outside. Let me put down the window. You can just hear that now. Quite good. I think Nissan did a good job. But significantly is the drive quality and the ride quality. I think this is something that Nissan has been working on. It's epic. You can feel it across the entire lineup, starting from the smaller brother, the Nissan Note, the e-Power, all the way to even the X-Trail, and that has been translated down to even the Terra, the Patrol. I think the drive quality is quite epic. I know there's something I've not mentioned, Palembele, about the transmission, and that comes down to the solenoids. The biggest complaint has been, the newer version of the Xtronic CVT comes with solenoids that lock up or spoil all the time. And for me to describe what solenoids and for me to describe what solenoids are so that you understand how they function, you remember this car has a gear shifting kind of mechanism, 7-speed. It's a CVT, but it shifts based with how you drive it. And the solenoids here are what keeps the pressures in balance to see or to understand whether you want to drive this car fast or you want to drive this car slowly. So the solenoids here are the ones that do the balance of pressures and push the transmission to different levels of output. And so what actually happens to the solenoids are, if you run dirty fluids and they go enter the solenoids will not be able to actuate because it's actually an electronic component, so it has to actuate on and off, and that drives down to the idea that you need to service this car much frequently within the specified time and use very good quality fluids. If you don't do that, of course, wewe na solenoids mutakuwa mnakutana kwa mechanic na garage all the time to fix that problem. There's nothing much to talk about how I feel. I think everything else has been put conveniently where you need it, and it makes driving this car quite easy. Let me put slowly my feet down and just see how she picks up. And that is important because that translates now to the fuel economy. One thing that I hate and I don't like, and I think most people have really complained about this car, is what people call the transmission whine. So normally transmission in Nissan, you will get a bit of whining when you're driving this car, and that's the same thing you experience, especially when you slam your feet down. You can hear the whine of the transmission, and that is something you have to live with. I know it's across the Nissan lineup sometimes, so yeah, if you're buying this car, it's something you have to work with. But once you put your feet down, she goes. Once she starts flowing, she goes. But I can't say she's a very fast car. In terms of fuel economy numbers, you can hear the beeping and the sensors when I'm crossing the lanes. You remember the Pro Pilot, the Nissan Pro Pilot? That is what I was telling you about. So it's capable of giving you a very nice warning anytime you're crossing lanes or you want to overtake in case there's traffic or there's a car coming from the rear. It will actually warn you. Not only will it do that on traffic, it will actually do that when you're also reversing out of you are parking. When there is a car coming from your rear, it will actually warn you. Fuel economy figures. On this car, you can average 16 kilometers to a liter. On average, when you're doing highway, you can actually get upwards of 19 kilometers to a liter. These fuel economy figures are not the ones that have cooked or the ones that are proposed by Nissan. These are the ones that have been experienced by the owner of this car, who has driven this car for the last 3-4 months now. Body roll kubwa sana. I'm just taking a corner. It's not a sports car, so do not drive this car as a sports car, but very huge body roll. It's a tall car, so expect that. And all these fuel economy numbers translates down to fuel power figures. So the MR20 DD is giving you 150 HP and 200 Newton meters of torque. Now the numbers look nice. They look nice if this car was small, but for what this car weighs and for what this car, those numbers look nice if it was a small car, like let's say a Vitz or a Nissan Note. But for this car, it weighs a lot. It weighs a lot, and of course it's also huge. So, and the drag on this car based with the body style is quite huge. So those numbers will not translate to anything significant in terms of pushing this car to top speeds or racing this car on the road. But once she picks up, I think she's a very calm cruiser, very calm, easy cruiser, and you can just enjoy your drive quality. One thing that you'll enjoy more is how it feels to actually drive this car. The comfort just glides over bumps, it glides over uneven road surfaces, and that is something that is so beautiful about the newer Nissans that are being made right now. I think that's all. When it comes to driving dynamics, I'll give it to the step wagon. I think if you get the step wagon, the 2-liter hybrid, you'll drive better. Or if you buy this car with the e-power configuration, with the EM57 motor, I bet it will drive better. It will be more punchy. It will give you the driver's feel if you're looking for driver's feel, and again, it will give you better fuel economy. So I think that's all. I'm not going to do 0 to 100 on this car, because again, why would I race this car? Surely ama mnataka CVT nichemkie? Oh, hii ishawekwa aftermarket ulikula. Let's talk about value for money and see, does this car make a value proposition when you want to buy this particular car? So value for money. Let's talk about value for money, and for that I need to grab funga mshipi na ukunywe maji. And there's something clearly I just noticed sitting here. You know, if I just move like this space is quite good for somebody to fit there. This makes a very good adventure car. I can picture myself pale Ngong, nimepanda Ngong Hills, parked facing the sunset, and I have my, lovely, beautiful wife seated next to me, and we can talk about matters of national importance and plan the family. But back to what matters to you, value for money. So, does this car make a value proposition? And for me to give you this case, I have to compare with what you can buy against this car. So, number one on the list is the Honda Step Wagon, a car we reviewed when it was the cheapest among the class. Okay, it was slightly expensive than the Serena back then, but it was cheaper than the Noah. It was cheaper than the Biante. Right now, it is the most expensive of all. The cheapest step wagon right now you can get in the market will set you back around 2.6, 2.7 million Kenya shillings. Noah is going 2.45, 2.55, 2.6 million Kenya shillings. Again, this comes down to the quality, preference, and all that put together. Now, this particular car, if you want to buy the Serena C27, 2016 all the way to 2018, I know best with duty it can change the price, but let's just put it to 2016, 2017 right now. This particular car will set you back only 1.8 million Kenya shillings. If you compare the gap between this and the step wagon, there's a huge difference of almost 700, 800 towards 900,000 Kenya shillings. And the debate here is, this is being sold low because of the reliability uoga ambayo meuziwa. So let's put that perspective. If I bought this particular car at 1.8 million Kenya shillings, let's assume I will keep the gearbox every after 150,000 kilometers. 150,000 kilometers, that's an average of 5 years ownership, because on average, let's put it 5 years. So every 5 years I'm changing this car. I'm changing the gearbox of this car. And the gearbox of this car will set me back 140,000 Kenya shillings. To assume gearbox ni mbaya, and I want to live with this car for 10 years, let's put 10 years as the test period. So for 10 years, I'm going to spend 280,000 Kenya shillings to change the transmission on this car. Those are 2 transmissions, right? Versus you, who has bought a step wagon, which has set you back 2.7 or maybe 2.8 million Kenya shillings. Do you see value for money? Does it justify leaving all these things that this car offers for a step wagon or a Noah for a difference of 700 to 900,000 Kenya shillings? To me, that doesn't sound like value for money. I will buy this car any day, anytime, and put aside, for worst case scenario, 300,000 Kenya shillings. And even if I added 300,000 Kenya shillings to buy this car at 2.1 million Kenya shillings, it's still cheaper than the Honda Step Wagon. It's still cheaper than the Noah. It's still cheaper than the Mazda Biante. And I will enjoy all those things that Nissan have made it possible to have on this car. But again, let's decipher the unreliability or the reliability crate that this car carries. If you drive this car properly the way it's supposed to be driven, if you service this car properly, and servicing means you flush your fluid with genuine fluids at good intervals, I said 50,000 kilometers, don't go past that, and make sure when you do that, you go inside the transmission, change the filter, clean the strain, and make sure it serves fuel across the entire transmission. I don't think you'll ever have a problem on this transmission. I think you can drive this car comfortably after we install the aftermarket oil cooler to 250, 300,000 kilometers without a problem. That's my value proposition. So, it is upon you. Make your decision. Would you rather buy this car and enjoy all those nicer things that you've seen me enjoy in this car, or spend 700,000 more and buy your Noah or Honda Step Wagon? That is a word from Askofu Ibrahim, and I hope you guys have loved the preaching for today in a midweek session. Hii tunaitanga midweek intercession. Kanisa tukutane on Sunday. Bye bye. Mungu amesema hii ni maombi ya katikati ya wiki. So guys, bye bye. I hope you guys have enjoyed this exciting episode of the review of the Nissan Serena. Until Sunday, I'll see you when we get to reveal the process or the progress of the W211 restoration. Bye bye. Wacha nilambe kopo la maji. Wewe ni kucheza na Tiny Pesa, manake kasisi ako njaa na sadaka yako ndo inatusaidia. Bye bye.